Hey everyone! Thank you for taking the time to join in with Uncommon Women Podcast, a dope podcast to bring light to reality from real life people sharing real life stories with a host of women having real life talk, the good and the bad, with no judgment. Uncommon Women's Loyalty is here to support those that need a safe space to speak their truth and rawness to the world. Tune in, relax, take notes, and let's vibe. Here are your hosts, Uncommon Women.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Uncommon Women. I am your host, Shanira, and today we are on our season finale of Uncommon Women for the season, and we have an amazing guest speaker that's going to be hitting the stage in just a moment. Before we get into her testament in regards to how she is excelling as a young Black woman, doing amazing things after living a traumatic life, I wanted to let you know that we do have our seminar that is coming up, our 4th annual seminar that is going to be November 23rd of this year at 12 p.m. in Reading, PA. We are looking for vendors. So if you make candles, if you have lip gloss that you're selling, maybe even jewelry, anything that you want to sell and put out there, you're more than welcome to go on our website at uncommonwomen.net and register to be a vendor for the self-love seminar. And just to give you a recap of what we did last year, I do want to play a video that's going to show you what to expect and more for the upcoming seminar for this year. So take a look at this video from season 3.
I reaffirm my dedication to do the work, to unlock, live, and rediscover the purpose of what God has given me. I love me. Unapologetically.
To know that God is working. Now I want to show you something on the screen right now that God did for me. July the 5th. Ready? Now, I didn't get to tell you because I was saving some of this. But from 7 years old, so at the age of 20, I started praying for my husband. And I thought, rejection has been that thing in my life that I've been like, man, it seems like every time I turn around, somebody's telling me no. The word no, always no. And for the longest time, it was that thing that made me just fell back, right? And I'm like, no, all right, look, it's not my time. You know, I wasn't owning what was before.
Search for it in my world around me. I get intimately connected to. In January of 2023, this will resonate with some people. My word, the prayer that I gave, my word for 2023 is blame situation, blame that boss, blame that chick who's across the hall, we're blaming people, but it's hiding. We also call it, we get frustrated when we identify the truth. We can know the truth and still lie.
Yes, so tickets are on sale now for our 4th annual I Love Myself seminar. Make sure you go to eventbrite.com at I Love Myself seminar, and it's going to pull up the tickets so that you can purchase it to come to our next event. We have door prizes. Food is going to be cooked and prepared by Sizzling Island. It's a Caribbean company that is doing an amazing job in Reading, PA. So you do not want to miss this next event. Tickets are on sale. Make sure you go to Eventbrite to purchase your tickets. And without further ado, I'm going to bring up our final guest speaker for the season, which is amazing Javonna. She is thriving through trauma, developing an optimistic, can-do attitude, excellent in leadership, and like I said, she's doing amazing as a young Black woman in leadership. And today she's going to be sharing her story of breaking barriers and how she's inspiring others. So first and foremost, thank you, Javonna, for coming on today. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Shanira, but you're calling me Javonna.
Javonna, I'm sorry. Yes, please correct me, Javonna. And I don't know why I was calling you Giovanni, and I know your name is.
I know. It's late.
Listen, it's Halloween. I'm giving you a new name for Halloween. No, but how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Like you said, it's Halloween. It's Thursday, approaching the end of the week. I have, a big event tomorrow, but then it's the weekend, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, and we're going to talk about your event, your fundraiser, before we close out today, which I'm super excited about as well. But before we get into the amazing things that you're doing in leadership and, how you're inspiring women, can you tell us a little bit about your life and, how was your life growing up?
Yeah, so I am born and raised in Westchester. I was the youngest girl for 17 years before my mom and my stepdad had my little sister. So I grew up as the youngest. I have 2 older brothers. I have a lot of aunts and a few uncles. And so the way that I grew up was very family oriented, very close knit with my family, childhood best friends. We started being best friends at like 10 years old. So there's a lot of long-standing, strong relationships in my life that have, influenced me and created a village mentality.
Okay. So how was that transition of, being the oldest of 17 years and then it transitioning to now being able to no longer being in that position?
Yeah, for a minute I was like, I felt away, right? Because so when growing up, it was my oldest brother and I, Xavier, and my mom raised us as a single mom, and then with the support of other family and things like that. My other brother is my dad's son, but that's, my brother. We don't do that.
Right, that's your brother, right?
But in the household, it was me and my brother. So when I was 17 and my mom and my stepdad had my little sister, I became excited eventually, but initially I was like, a little bit apprehensive because I'm like, all right, she's a girl. She was supposed to be born in the same month as me. I was like, she's trying to steal my spot. But also my mom actually had 5 pregnancy losses before my little sister was born. So it was also very restorative, right? Like, even though we didn't know how to feel, it was like, is this baby going to make it and things like that. But when she came and I got past, my jealousy, my old teenage jealousy, when I first saw her, she was born premature, about 3 months early. And I went to the hospital in the NICU and I saw her, and her legs were like the size of my finger. And she held my hand. And I loved her from that moment on.
Oh, so how is your relationship with your youngest sister now?
Amazing. That's my baby. Yeah.
That's your baby, right?
Yeah, she's like we love each other so much. Like I feel like she looks up to me so much. We talk every single day. We text every single day. When I moved out of my mom's house, she was so upset. But I love her. I'm absolutely there for her every moment that I can be.
Okay. So you grew up and you said you grew up in a single parent household. So what was one of the biggest challenges that you faced in a single parent home, and how did it, shape you into outlook on life now?
Mm-hmm. I would say probably the emotional independence that you have to develop, right? Because my mom, right, she's working, she's grinding so much. And even when I think about like a single parent home, I think like we have the same challenges maybe that anyone else might have, but I see how they're extended. And especially now, like seeing my little sister grow up in a two-parent home, like just having her parents home more, having parents that are like more stable in life, in their education, in their economics, right? Being homeowners, like you just grew up this way. I remember years back, like my mom's washer and dryer broke. So we had to go to a laundromat and my sister was scared to death. She's like, what is this? And so just even that realization, like, oh, she really grew up different than us, like a different generation, also a different experience with my mom. And so I think it's the emotional independence, right? Because going through different things and it's trauma, but I feel like it's life too. You really have to learn how to navigate that. And maybe you're not going to always have the person or your parents there for you the way that you would want or hope for them to be there as a child. So you have to make sense of the world. And so I would say probably developing that emotional independence and then, as an adult, hyper independence has been a big challenge of growing up in a single parent home.
You brought up a good point. Do you feel as though because you was raised in a single parent household that you have, maybe this is not true, but I'm just asking. You have challenges with depending on a man to help you when you need help on things because you grew up in a single parent household? Because I know how, like, I grew up in a two-parent household, but I'm a single mom, so it's a challenge at times asking for help because of that independency. Do you feel like you have those type of struggles as well?
I would say yes, I've gotten better, right? But when we think about trauma in that context, like even though you've healed, you could have done a lot of work. I think you're always in recovery, just because there's like the short-term and long-term effects. But I think that I would say yes. I've over time I've learned how to lean on other people and be less hyper independent. But I do think it places the emphasis there. But I'll also say that I think that those formative years and those core memories have taught me, how to be compassionate, how to have understanding for men, even in some of the work that I chose to do. And when I think about like my dad, because I want to say this first and foremost, I'm from a very loving and caring family.
Okay.
And me and my dad have a great relationship, but I think systemic racism does play a lot in the challenges that we have in our families. And a core memory that I have with my brother is my dad being arrested, and sometimes it was over things like child support or whatever. So I remember being a child and like writing a letter. I don't know who I thought I was writing a letter to, but I wrote a letter, saying that dads shouldn't be incarcerated for not being able to pay child support because then they can't spend time with their families and things like that. So even though I have that like hyper independence, I've also been able to develop compassion and then also, just learning more about myself and what it looks like to recognize that like I'm not currently living in the trauma that I've had in the past. So how will that awareness, that self-awareness help me navigate the situations and relationships I want to be in today?
That's real good.
Yeah.
How has your relationship been with your father? Is he currently still incarcerated or is he home now?
My dad's not incarcerated. He's home.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a great relationship, like I said. I think it was just really during the formative years because my parents, they had me in their 20s. And so I think that's the whole thing
Like
in
a
itself.
trial and error at that
Yes,
age,
like,
right?
it really is. Like I'm 31 now, and I am not a parent.
Okay.
I fostered a child once, but I'm not a parent. And just like I explained with my little sister, right? She's 17 years younger than me, so she didn't grow up the way my brother and I did. And so even seeing like the stability that my mom has now, having her in her 40s versus having me, and yeah, so I think it's all of that. So I have a good relationship with my dad. I just think that like in high school and things like that, I remember like he always came to my games. Like when I played basketball, he's always been my biggest fan. Like if a teacher said I was wrong, even if I was wrong,
Right now,
my
let's
dad
go.
was standing 10 toes down for me. You know what I mean? So like that's the relationship I have with my dad. Like we're both very alike in that way. We're both goofy. I just think that maybe during my adolescence, he was also going through his own journey in that way. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Um, for your brother, did did the situation at hand, take a chunk out of his growing habits as he became older, or did he take it as a life lesson? Or do you even know how he felt, during the process of being a young man without his father in the age of growing up?
I would say all of the above. The funny thing, Shanir, is when I saw, the theme like thriving through trauma, I was like, dang, right? Because I think like, especially in our community, but I guess I can say in general, like, especially now being a manager, I don't think that people like to associate themselves with their trauma.
Let's
Right.
go.
So when you say when you see the word trauma, you're like, who? Like, I'm like, who? What am
I
I about
know,
to say?
right?
Because like now all these people are going to be like, oh my God, like what happened with her? Right. But it's real life. This is life. This is like the stuff that makes us who we are. And so the one thing about my brother, he'll be the first thing to say, like if we're together with family, he'll be like, it's trauma. And I'm like, all right, bro, we're not going to talk about trauma every time we're together. So I think that he doesn't fully always express his feelings, but I know that, a couple years back, we all go to the beach. Like since we were children, all my family goes to the same beach house every single year. Like my mom, all her siblings, their kids, we all get together. And so he actually is a father of 3 now. And
Okay.
we went to the beach and he was standing by the beach. He was standing by the water. All his kids were playing. And I walked up to him. I'm always messing with my older brother. So I was like, what you doing? Like reflecting on life? Ha ha ha. And he's like, yeah, actually I am. And he's like, and he was like, I was just thinking like, I never went to the beach with my dad. Like my dad never saw me. Like, and I was like, so you're like kind of expressing gratitude. And he was like, yes. So I think even though I think we both handled our upbringing in different ways and it's driven us in different ways. And I think at times he could be more closed off than I would be. But I do think that he's used that pain to propel the man he is today and the father he is and all the things that he does and aims to achieve.
I love that. And I love how he's, not using his trauma, as he would say, because I heard you say he said trauma, not using
Yeah.
his trauma as a crutch, but typically, making a difference for his children and breaking the generational curse of being there and showing them the things that he didn't get. I love that for him. And I'm sure that, if you do decide to have children, that you'll be able to do the same. Do you feel as though once your mother had got with her, your stepfather, that you had a bonus dad in that case because you came from a loving family as well?
Yeah, I would say for sure my stepdad is a bonus dad to me. I think during my formative years, my biggest male mentor was my Uncle Tommy. That's
Shout out to
my
Uncle Tommy.
Yes, Uncle Tommy, my favorite uncle. He is my mom's younger sister, my aunt Pooh's husband. And
Okay.
so he's been around for all of time, but I feel like they fill that role for me. Like when I was, like 10, 11, 12, like I was going to church with my Aunt Pooh and my Uncle Tommy. And you know what I mean? They would be like cussing before we got inside, but then we would go in and praise God. Like,
Yeah.
so, like I really learned, right? And I learned like about the dynamics of a relationship and things like that, just seeing them together. And they would like allow me to sleep over their house. They would just take me places with them. They would joke with me. So I think, and my uncle really, I would contribute, my success in my career to him because when I was a knucklehead in my earlier 20s, he always kept me grounded and gave me the solid advice I needed to stay the course.
I love that. I love that. And how has, navigating through your trauma impacted your journey into your leadership role? I know he's played an impact on who you are today, but how what are some tips that you can give to others that, you know, may experience some trauma in their past and they're letting their trauma hinder them from moving forward into leadership skills? What is
Mhm.
some rules that you can, or advice that you can give them to help them get into those positions or roles without, you know, letting that hinder who they are today?
Yeah, I would say definitely identifying your values, right? Because and this is something I've only done in like maybe the past 5 years, but
Okay.
I was lucky to, well, one, COVID happened, right? And I think like people are always like, but COVID happened, but that was real for me because I'm so used to, like, I'm everyone's big cousin in my family. You know, I'm a big sister, like I have nieces and nephews. Every, like, all my best friends, I'm their best friend, so I'm like that person in a lot of people's life, but then I'm that person at work too. And so
Right.
I would help a lot of people and just do everything, be everywhere, always doing the most and still having fun, like just doing way too much. And then COVID hit and I was like, I couldn't really help people. And then I had to sit with my own feelings. Like I wasn't going out every Friday, Saturday. Like, so I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
Who
and
am
then
I?
I started, oh my God, like what is this? So I started really thinking like, you know, because I think sometimes we have an understanding of who we are, or we have these values, or we're operating a certain way because that's who we were before, and we just keep going, going, going. And so I had the time to really evaluate that, and I realized like, oh, this ain't really it. But then I was like, well, what is then? And lucky for me, I had a coach. Who decided she, you know, and she coached me for free. So one thing I would say is that, because even though she was my coach in career coaching, life coaching, it very much so felt like therapy. But it worked for me because it made me do the work. So there was a point where I had to, like, she had me on a meeting, on a Zoom meeting, and I had to stick all these post-it notes on my face of everything I was involved in, and um you know, dedicated to, whether personal, work, whatever. And she was like, what would you be willing to let go this week? And I was like, nothing. And so, but I was like, but I want to do all these things. And she was like, well, you have to decide. And so I had to really sit and say, like, what am I trying to prioritize and why? And once I was able to do that, I started letting go of certain things. I was able to identify like 3 values, and I would work towards those each year. Like, one was financial advancement, right? Like, I'm like, I want to move out of my mom's house. I want to be on my own. But what does that look like, right? If I'm always lending somebody $20, that's $20
How
that I
you
don't
gonna
have. That's
right?
$20 that I don't have, right? But they need me. But they know that, you need you. So I would say definitely identify your values, because if you don't know what you stand for, you don't know where you're going. And I know that even in identifying my values, it kind of made it easy for me to say no to people, right? Because I would be like, I can't lend you that $20 because I have a value of, advancing financially. And when I do that, I'm moving away from my values. So then when you blame it on your values, people don't even know what to say. So I think, one, identifying your values, but then two, like, making sure you know who your support system is. And it doesn't have to be, right. You know who you can call, and they're going to just validate the heck out of you. Like I said, like my dad, like if I call him and I'm like, this person did this, I could be as wrong as I want to be. He's going to be like, well, tell them this. He's going to agree with me. So if I need to hear some constructive feedback, I know that I need to call my mentor, right? So I think identifying like those people in your life and knowing who to call for what, is really going to help you navigate your trauma and help you uphold like your values. Yeah, I'll say that. That's
And I
what's
think
helped me.
sometimes, and let's be honest, I believe sometimes that are for the people that are so used to giving, 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 and you know, their love language is helping others. It's hard for those people to actually put on the shield of taking care of themselves
Yeah,
and putting themselves first. But the moment that they actually do, it's a relief. It's a relief when you can see how far that you can go further in life when you
right.
actually put yourself first before helping others, because you can't pour into others if you're empty, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's really good. That's really good. Can you explain, you know, how you were able to balance life expectations and pivot moments where you had to press pause on certain relationships, like you talked about, you know, setting those boundaries and, you know, having safe healthy boundaries for yourself. how did that feel with your friendships and, all the things that you wanted to juggle? How did you actually handle that and, conquer, putting you first?
Yeah. I think it really just came down to like obviously, right, the values and like getting real with myself about what I want. Because I think it's really easy to not take accountability for some of the relationships that we're in, that we choose, or just how like we navigate them. And unfortunately, like I have, well, a lot of friends that go through a lot of different things, but I had a friend who went through a really tragic incident. And I was there for her, but I like saw myself like taking on so much because that's who I've always been. And I realized at the same time I was going through stuff, and that friend didn't have the same compassion for me. And so it was just like an aha moment where I was just like, okay, like let me just tell you the truth, right? Like, and I think people aren't used to me being like that because I'm so kind that when I'm not mean when I tell the truth, but I'm gonna just say what it is because I can't just I like to get talk
You're
through.
direct.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're
Like
direct.
I'm not just gonna move through that. Yeah, like if we get in an argument or any type, like I'm not just gonna like move past it. Like, oh, we're gonna talk about that and then we can go kiki, but like first. And so I think just like what unfortunately when I like spoke that truth, it was just like uh I don't it kind of like pulled us apart. And I had to be okay with that, like mourning that loss while still standing on my values and what I want for myself. And I think that's like really important because at the time that this happened, I was actually going after this role, right? So I was before I became the president and CEO, I was interim. So and I had to like really focus in and learn myself and learn the job and learn if this is what I want, because I was like, I'm not even sure. And if I don't want this, am I moving away? Like, what am I doing next? And so every single day, it no longer felt like, oh, like this job I've done for so long, I'm great at it. It was like every single day I started from zero and I had to figure that out. And I had to like pour that energy into myself. And so I had to be okay with pressing pause on that friendship. And for me, it's not like, I'm never going to talk to this person again, but I just had to be okay with saying like, it's okay to pour into yourself the way that you pour into other people. I think that we don't always give ourselves that permission. And I think also maybe too just a part of getting older, because that's like not the only hard conversation I've had to have this year. And and it's just like, what does it look like to invest in yourself? The same way that you're investing in other people, you should feel that comfortable to invest in yourself. The way that I would treat my little sister is the way that I should treat myself. I would not let my little sister, have friends that just treat her any type of way. So why would I let myself? Why would I let myself? Yeah.
That's good. You made a good point. And I think, sometimes we do tend to forget about ourselves because we so focused on making sure that everybody else is taken care of. And I love how you took the moment to put you first and it led you in a position of being a president CEO. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So what emotions were you going through knowing that you were about to take another level of leadership at your at the age that you're at, being a young Black woman and thriving to be in a presidential position? How does that feel, first and foremost?
It feels amazing now, right? It was then it was way too
Now,
many emotions because I actually was on track to become um a chief operating officer. That was the vision that my predecessor had for me. And so once she told me that, I'm already making all my plans, do. And we had a winter break and I ended up meeting up with her during that winter break. And that's when she unexpectedly let me know that she would be moving on. And so this is a person that I've worked with her for 10 years. Like she served as a mentor for me. She's also a Black woman, right? And I always knew that there's just having another Black woman lead the way before me, I had a level of protection that
yes.
I was like, what happens next? Because I know how the world can be. And so I think there were so many emotions because it was like, this is scary. I'm going to miss the heck out of her. I'm crying every day. Nobody's seeing any of that, right? I'm just going home like, but when
Right.
I come here, it's game face. So like,
Right.
I think it's all of that. And then also just knowing that like, I'm the first person in my family to be in this role. I'm the first. So it's like certain things, there's not even anyone for me to call. Like I literally had to depend on God and just trust and get through each day and like accept each day for what I learned because I wasn't sure. But I think that I'm always so grateful for that interim period because it showed me myself, right? Like whatever imposter syndrome might have existed, whatever doubts I might have had, I realized like, oh shoot, I can do this. And there's people who are going to support me as I do it.
Okay. Do you ever feel as though, the position that you are in, that some people feel like they can take advantage of you because you're a younger woman and
Mhm.
they don't take you as serious as you should be, taken because
Yeah.
of your position? Like, let's be real.
Yeah,
And
right, right.
they
I
feel
think
like that they can intimidate you and they're
I
not
think
even in the
people
position that you in.
right. I think people have tried that and then like they're like, "Oh." I think I think because like again and I think maybe that even goes back to friendships too. I think like right they're like we see this nice smile, like she's such a joyous person, but I'm also about my business too because of my upbringing and my experiences and my lived experiences or my the things passed down generationally or the people I grew up around and my friends' experiences, like I really don't play about the work that I do. And so I think that maybe goes back to like standing on my value, right? Like, cool, you can feel that way, but this is still what we're going to do. And I
Right.
think that's kind of how I approach those situations because, I'm going to get done what I need to get done, whether it's with or without you, that's on you. But I do think, of course, there's been people who are like, this person's young. And I think just being in the field since my earlier 20s, I already kind of experienced that. I honestly think that because I've been doing the work for so long, in the last couple years, I've gotten like the respect that I never got before, like as a person in their 20s. But I would say it's definitely there. And just from, just the different experiences and having confidence is how I navigate that.
Okay. Okay. Do you ever feel like there is moments where you feel overwhelmed because the person that, uh was with you for 10 years and you were kind of, I don't want to say maybe following their footsteps, but
Mhm.
maybe learning from what they were doing, and you see that it's a possibility that the way that you want to do things is different and it may be the way to make things run a little bit smoother? Do you ever feel overwhelmed with those type of decisions?
Uh, I think it comes in waves. Like I think I've learned that I'm more prepared than I thought I was, right? And I think that always goes back to that interim period because I was in the interim role for like 3 months. So initially I was like, I'm so crazy for saying yes to this because I already had a really big role before she moved on. So I was like, what does this mean? Like, am I her and me? Like trying to navigate that. And so I think that part was overwhelming and also figuring out like what kind of leader do I want to be? Like am I like because my title's changing, do I need to lead differently? Like how does a CEO act? I think I would ask myself those questions a lot and I've learned right like a CEO is however you're showing up. Like but I think before I caught on to that concept it felt very overwhelming because
Mhm.
um yeah, I'm trying to figure out how do I navigate this space? How do I navigate these new relationships? I have, a new boss, essentially 12 or 10 of them. So and I have to recreate some of these relationships. So I think that part was overwhelming. But I think just knowing like the work's going to look different each day and some days will be a bit tougher than others. I kind of stay grounded in that.
Okay, okay. Do you feel like your resilience today plays a big role in your journey from your past as growing up through the trauma, or do you believe that because you worked on your identity that molded you into the person that you are today?
I think I would say yes, for sure. Like, especially back then, like, I think that I found a lot of comfort in being a reader, being a writer, being a dreamer. Like, I found comfort in that context. And so I would say the same thing stands true today. It's just I live in a vision. Like, I always have a vision. And I think definitely my experiences from the past basically produce my drive, produce me to stay focused, right? I know that, like, suffering is not forever. So if I have to suffer through anything, it's going to be for a purpose. Like, we're going to make this worth something. I definitely feel like the resilience I have comes from my upbringing, just seeing how my mom worked really hard, how she she got her degree as an adult with 2 children. She worked several jobs. She became a homeowner. I have another aunt who just retired from Philly School District after 30 years. Another aunt who's an accountant. So I grew up around all these strong women who, despite any circumstances, made it happen. And so just knowing that they've come before me and they've achieved all they have, I know I can do it. And I also have people behind me looking up to me, whether it's the children in my family or some of the staff that work around me or just people in the community. So I'm going to keep pushing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you still have, even though you have this big leadership role, that you still can, be in your 20s and enjoy life and, have fun and enjoy it without, always being that leadership that plays a big, stigma on your personality or your presentation when you go outside of the working doors? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes so much sense. I think that one is that's kind of like one of the
Let's talk about that.
one of the reevaluations I've had to make. It is hard. There was actually a time when I was 26, right? And I went on vacation with 2 of my best friends. It was actually, I think it was during the COVID year. And my friend got this really beautiful, like, elaborate suite in Atlantic City. Like, I've never stayed in a room like this. I'll probably never stay in a room like this again. But she's a professional athlete and she was home for the summer. So she was just like, I'm gonna get it, y'all. So we went, we had the time of our lives. Like, I was taking cute pictures. I'm a curvy girl and I had on this bodysuit. Or it was either a bodysuit or it was a bathing suit, right? So I posted the picture and I went home, after the trip. And on Monday, my former boss called me in and was like, "Hey, I saw that." Actually, no, she didn't call me in. She called me on like a Friday. We never talked on a Friday. So I was like, "Why is she calling me?" And she was like, "Yeah, so someone sent me a picture of you and it seems like a little inappropriate. And I just want to like know more about that." And I was like so caught off guard. And again, 26 years old. So this was like 5-6 years ago. And I was like, can we talk about this on Monday? Like, I just was like baffled. Like, I really don't know what to say about
you got your thoughts together. Like,
yeah, like, this is kind of crazy. Like, I don't know. It was on Instagram. I was having fun. So like, we talked and I'm just like I was on vacation with my friends. Like, I was just having fun. And I learned that my direct supervisor was the one that sent it to her. And I thought we had a pretty good relationship too. This was a Black man. So I was just like, I felt like, I was like, okay, one, he's a snake. Like, I definitely felt this type of way. These are all my feelings then, right? Now, today, Javonna does not necessarily feel this way, but at the time I was like, I was like, he's a snake, all these things. So, we were able to get past it. But one of the conversations was just like, I was like, first of all, I'm in the art scene. When I was like 22, like, I'm a poet, I have a published book. So like, I'm into the arts. And I did like body paint before at an event. So that was kind of the conversation. I was like, I know I'm a professional, but like outside of here, I have a whole life and this is what it is. And so, it's kind of like, well, I want you to choose. You have to kind of pick a lane because you do have a face, right, at this company and all these different things. Like, basically, I don't want to hear that. And so we kind of disagreed to disagree, like, especially being, I was like, and I was like, I don't want to be, I don't want to act like a 60 something year old. I'm 26. I want to act 26.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
that was kind of the stance. And I know today, looking back, like, I think I view it a little bit differently, right? Like, I still have fun. I still, like, I don't know, want to be flirty. I'm still young, whatever. It's in with moderation. So I understand, like, that perspective. But it can be hard, right? Because it's like, I'm big on my femininity, and I don't think that the workspace always allows for that. I think that sometimes people are very, like, harsh when it comes to women and womanhood, and that's one thing I stand on heavily, especially for girls that come after me. I want them to see a multifaceted woman, which is what I am, right? Like, yes, I work, but I play hard, and I'm a family
Right.
person. You know what I mean? But I date, like, all types of things. So yeah, that was definitely, like, a challenge, and something that is a core memory.
Now, being your 30s now, do you
Yeah.
feel as though you're still able to, be yourself and, not have the stigma of always being professional and letting your hair down? Do you feel as though what you do now is okay and it's acceptable? Or do
Mhm.
you feel as though there's certain things that you can do now because of your role that you play?
Yeah. Well, one thing, I think I calmed down a lot. I think my career calmed me down a lot. I'll say that, because without it, I probably would have just done something else. I don't know what, but you know what I mean? So I will say, like, yeah, I do feel like, in ways, just being a public figure or being associated with certain, like, multiple organizations and things like that, there's, like, a level of representation, but I still try to remain as authentic as possible. I'm so goofy. And so, like, I try to depict that, I guess, on different platforms. Like, I am who I am. And if I'm out of town or out of the country or whatever, I'm gonna, like, have fun and do what I want. But yeah, I do keep that in the back of my mind of just, like, what values do I want to uphold, respective of this role.
Dang, no twerking. No,
Ugh,
none of that.
I stopped working after 29. I retired from the twerk. It's a little wine now. We do some wine.
Some wine with some Whitney Houston and cleaning the house. Is that what we at?
No, Afrobeat wines.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. That's awesome. So, what is some before we close off, can you give us 3 things that you've learned from, having a traumatic upbringing, but loving parents to push you into the identity of who you are now, to learning how to adapt to society as being an independent person? What 3 strategies can you give to a person that is struggling with finding who they are, um, despite their past, or even, having a parent that's incarcerated?
Yeah. I think for sure, like, one of the first things I said was the village mentality, right? Like, even though my mom was working, there was times where my dad wasn't there. I had my grandmoms, I had my aunts, I had teachers from school, I had my best friends. So, like, you have to know where to find, like, how to build your village. And you also need to know, like, how to disclose things, right? Like, some things are private, so not everybody's going to know everything. You don't got to go tell all your business, but
Right.
you can't carry all of that stuff on your own. And so it's really figuring out, how are you going to figure out a healthy way to cope. And I think the key word is healthy. Because when you go through these different traumas, right, there might be things that you just want to do. You want to turn up, you want to, like, just whatever.
Express it a different way.
Exactly.
Right.
But they could be damaging to you. So if you have, like, some positive outlets, like, mine was writing. I was, like, close to so many of the school counselors when I was growing up. My best friends were my world, and they were trustworthy, good people, safe spaces. So I think definitely finding your village, I think finding a hobby, right? Like even though I think part of like when I had to step back in 2020 and like reevaluate things, I think that it was always in my personality. Like one, I love service. Civic service is really important to me. But in some ways, right, there might have been things that I was like, that was my outlet in a way, like being around people, finding community, like always doing something thriving. So like finding a healthy hobby that you can learn from. And maybe it doesn't always look like the stuff you love to do. It might look like, I don't know, like something environmental. It might look like the church. It could look like so many different things, but like just finding a hobby that can help you feel good, grow your skills, like maybe meet new people. Sometimes people are like, I don't have any friends. Like, well, what did you do? You just sat at home. Like, you're not going to make no friends sitting at home. So why don't you go try something different? I think that's positive. And then, um, I think also just having like educating yourself and having the mindset. I think one of the things that has always inspired me about my mom was like having the loss of 6 babies and just like struggling through that, but she didn't give up. I remember like being a kid and my grandma was like, "Why do you keep doing this to your body?" But my stepdad didn't have a child and my mom wanted another child, and so she like went through all the things she needed to make sure she still had it. Like she just didn't accept that no for an
I
answer,
love
and
that.
that themes all throughout her life, and different things that she did. So it's just like, don't make excuses for yourself. Like, yes, you go through these hardships and they're going to happen, but that's life. You might be having a hard time. So am I. So is Shanira. So is the next person. And you got to
Right.
figure out how to navigate. You can't make that your reason. Like, oh, this happened to me. Like, okay, what are we going to do about it? Because it's unfortunate, but also what's fortunate is that the world's going to keep spinning. And so if you can find something to live for, do it.
Okay. Is there any final thoughts or advice you want to give to anybody that's listening um that may feel lost or stuck in a position of where they're at, and you feel as though that you can tell them something that may be able to push them into the purpose if they don't have the support that you have and
Yeah.
that maybe I have. What is some advice that you can give them?
Ooh. Um, it's tough. I really think it comes back to just tapping into yourself and figuring out, what do you want? Like, what do you want to do? Like, there's so much you can do, and sometimes you're gonna have to do it scared, right? And you can't let that fear stop you. Like if I would have stopped every time I was scared, it would be a wrap. Like let's just call it what it is. It's done, it's over with. But I think you should do more stuff scared. I think that's the answer to a lot of growth, because if you're not trying it and you're just thinking about it, or you're thinking about all the ifs and buts and whatever, you're never gonna know. But once you go and do it, you'll have that context to learn and be like, okay, I hated this. Actually pretty good at this. More people support me than I thought, right? Like more people watch my podcast than I thought, like whatever. So I think you got to do some things scared, even though you might not want to.
I love that. I always say faith over fear.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about faith over fear is there's always room for growth if you try it. There's no room for growth if you don't understand, the mistakes that you made to be able to grow from it. Or if you don't try it, nothing beats a failure but a try, right?
Right.
So I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your story, coming up here, sharing your wisdom in regards to how you were able to excel in being the influencing woman that you are in, and the presidential. Can you tell us about, before we go, you do have a fundraiser that's coming out tomorrow, and I don't want to forget. Can you tell us about your fundraiser? Tell us why you're doing it, and how we can support you in regards to your first fundraiser for your company.
Yeah, so I'll say my organization has a rich history It was founded by a Black man in the 60s at a time where Black and poor people could not get educational and economic or employment opportunities. And so that is why I love this organization so much. That's why I work so hard for the mission. And to date, we serve over 1,000 people each year in English as a second language, and people who have faced incarceration in the past, and single mothers. All walks of life come through my organization. And so anytime we can raise funds, it's just helpful because nonprofits depend a lot on government funding, and it doesn't always meet the exact needs of the people. And I love my organization so much because we pour so much into the community and make sure that, people can at times have the supports that they need or have some funding to be able to get through programs. And so tomorrow, Friday, November 1st, we're having a fundraiser in partnership with Uptown Canara Theater in Westchester, downtown Westchester, PA. And it starts at 5:30, the reception, and then the show is at 7:30. So a percentage of all the proceeds go to my organization. Like I said, they'll help all of our programs. They'll help the people who are usually the most underserved but hungry for opportunity. And I would love for people to come out.
Yes, yes. So be sure to tomorrow in Westchester from 5:30 to 7:30.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the show starts at 7:30. Yep.
Do you have the address for those that's listening in? No, you're not prepared.
I think it's 226 High Street, but if you look up Uptown Theater, Westchester, you won't miss it.
So if you're not doing anything tomorrow, November 1st, be sure to be in Westchester, support her. Tickets are $55 or $100?
So VIP tickets are $100 and standard tickets are $50.
Okay, so VIP tickets are $100.
Yeah, get the VIP seats.
Be sure y'all get the VIP tickets. Half of that will go back to her the foundation that she works for, to be able to give back to the community and everything that she's doing for the nonprofit. So first and foremost, thank you, Javonna, for sharing your story, coming on and being transparent, and just talking about your childhood in regards to growing up in a single parent household, and being able to thrive through the challenges and struggles that you've been through, and not letting that be a crunch into who you are today and what you're doing for the community. There is one question that we do ask all of our viewers, that all of our speakers that come on our platform, and that is, what makes you uncommon?
So what makes me uncommon? I honestly think it's my heart. Like the way that I mean, one, yes, my heart for sure, right? I'm a CEO, but a nonprofit CEO, but I have bars, right? I'm a poet. I've written a book. But I will always have a heart for others. Just very empathetic and in my natural life, but also how I lead. And because I've had so many moments in my life of grace, or I have things that I came through, right? I beat different statistics. I know that I always had a hand or support along the way. And so I think what makes me uncommon is that even though I could be direct and firm, I'm very empathetic, I'm very compassionate, and I'm always willing to support somebody through their journey.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So you got a heart. She has a big heart for not just me, but for the world.
Yes.
And we appreciate you. We appreciate for everything that you do. And I love the growth and the identity of who you are becoming, and still growing into the person that you are being. And we have a comment from Alicia Womack saying, signs of a true leader. So shout out to everyone that was listening and tuning in. We have Shantae. She says she's super proud of you. And we have Covenant Culture up here talking about she's proud of you as well. So you have the village that you talk about definitely supporting you and being here and encouraging you throughout the journey of being on this platform and sharing your story. And I am truly honored for you to be able to come on this platform and share your testimony as well. We truly do appreciate you from the bottom of Uncommon Women's heart. And for the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, please be sure to check us out on uncommonwomen.net. If you're interested in coming into the seminar for November 23rd, we'll have door prizes. We're going to have food from Sizzling Island. We're going to have some amazing speakers. You do not want to miss it. It starts at 12. We have a VIP session as well. We're going to be touching on mental health, self-love, empowering, and just a day for women to come together and love on each other and grow into your own identity. So that's why we do have the I Love Myself seminar events. You do not want to miss it. If you're a vendor and you want to sell anything that you have for your business, you're more than welcome to go on Eventbrite and purchase your ticket for that as well. And without further ado, we are closing up on season 5. Thank you so much, Javonna, for being our closing guest speaker for the season. I hope you enjoyed yourself. We truly enjoyed your story. And everyone that's listening out, thank you so much for tuning in. And please remember to stay uncommon.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you've been shacking up with us for a while and haven't subscribed to our channel, what are you waiting for? Please like and subscribe to Uncommon Woman so you won't miss another episode. And remember, don't let anything or anyone affect your peace. Good vibes and stay